Tonight, before going to sleep, you will lie down on a soft mattress. The room temperature is comfortable, not too hot, not too cold. No one touches you. No one decides whether you will wake up tomorrow. You close your eyes and your body automatically relaxes. Your breathing slows. Your heartbeat settles into a steady rhythm. That is what absolute safety feels like. You do not think about it. You do not feel grateful for it. You just sleep. But there is one thing you have never asked yourself. For thousands of years before you were born, millions of people closed their eyes for the last time, not in a bed, not in peace, not alone. They died in the middle of a crowd, amid screams, amid the indifferent eyes of spectators. And the most terrifying part was not how they died. It was that none of the people watching thought there was anything wrong with it. That feeling of safety, the mattress, the room, the certainty that no one is going to lay a hand on you. It appeared only recently. If human history were a 300-page book, that feeling would occupy only the second half of the final page. The other 299.5 pages, darkness. For 99% of human history, there were no hospitals, no morphine, no doctors in white coats holding your hand and saying, "It won't hurt." Death was not something people tried to make gentler. Death was something people deliberately made longer, more painful, more public, because death was not the end. Death was a performance. Ancient empires understood something that we have largely forgotten. Nothing controls people more effectively than fear witnessed with their own eyes. Not laws, not armies, not warnings, but a death. Unfolding slowly, in the middle of a public square, before thousands of watching eyes. They did not kill to punish one person. They killed to send a message to everyone else. And those spectators did not walk away. They did not cover their children's eyes. They stood there. They watched. Some even applauded. Because to them, there was nothing unusual about it. It was simply an ordinary afternoon. You have just heard about those ordinary afternoons, the spectators, the people who did not cover their eyes, the people who did not walk away. And maybe you are thinking they were monsters. But wait, take a look at the natural world for a moment. A lion kills an antelope because it is hungry. Then it is over. No ritual, no audience, no planning. A shark attacks because of survival instinct, nothing more. Even chimpanzees, the species closest to humans genetically, when they kill, they do it quickly, brutally, without a performance. But ancient humans, they held discussions beforehand. They chose locations. They invited spectators. They designed devices so the victim would die as slowly as possible, slowly enough that the crowd would not leave out of boredom. No other species on this planet does that. Only us. And here's the part that makes everything truly disturbing. The people who designed those methods of torture were not madmen. They were not deranged outcasts living on the edge of society. They were engineers, architects, philosophers, judges, the people most respected by their communities. They sat down with a cup of tea, with a scroll of parchment, and seriously considered a question. How can a human being endure the greatest amount of pain for the longest possible time, while remaining alive long enough to continue suffering? That was not savagery. That was intelligence used in the wrong place in a way that no other species is capable of. So the real question is not why they were cruel. The real question is this. In their minds, they believed they were doing the right thing. And what made millions of ordinary people agree with them? You just asked what made millions of ordinary people agree with all of this. Perhaps the answer is not found in philosophy. Perhaps it is found in specific events, specific names, specific places. Things that actually happened on this earth to people made of flesh and blood, just like you and me. Let's begin with the most familiar example. You have seen the image of the cross thousands of times. People wear it around their necks. It stands on top of churches. It appears in paintings surrounded by golden light and peaceful expressions. But no one tells you what death on a cross actually looked like. It was not peaceful. It was not quick. It was not gentle. The Romans did not use crucifixion simply to kill. They used it to torture a person with their own body. When someone was suspended on a cross, the weight of their body slowly pulled their shoulders out of their sockets. Gradually. Relentlessly. To breathe, the victim had to push upward with their legs, the same legs pierced by nails. Every breath required enduring that pain. Then they dropped back down. Then pushed up again. Then dropped again. Hundreds of times. Thousands of times. Over 3 to 5 days. The lungs slowly failed because the body no longer had the strength to lift itself. The heart began to fail from dehydration. The skin started to break down under the sun. People did not die from the wounds themselves. They died from exhaustion, from reaching a point where they no longer had enough strength to take one more breath. And during all of this, they were placed beside the road. Not inside a prison, not hidden from view. Right beside the path people used on their way to the market each morning. Right where children played. Right next to the morning bread stalls. The Romans called it times summa supplicia, times the supreme punishment. But in reality, it was a billboard. A message made from a human body, erected beside the road, telling everyone who passed, "This is what happens to those who challenge the empire. No writing required, no speech required. Just look up." But if crucifixion is something you have at least heard about before, what comes next is something you have probably never imagined. Even modern historians, people who have spent their entire lives studying war, torture, and the darkest chapters of human history, sometimes have to put the book down when they reach this part. Not because it is too violent, but because it is so deliberate. The ancient Persians called this punishment times Scaphism, times a word derived from the Greek term for boat. This is how it worked. They took two wooden boards and carved openings just large enough for a person's head, hands, and feet. The victim was trapped between the boards, like a sandwich. Only the head, hands, and feet remained exposed. Then they covered the victim's body with honey and milk, into the mouth, into the eyes, into every exposed part of the body. After that, the victim was left floating on a stagnant pond beneath the sun. Within hours, insects arrived. Flies, mosquitoes, beetles, ants. They fed on the flesh. They laid eggs in open wounds. Larvae hatched and began burrowing from the inside. The victim's body, still alive, became a nest for insects. And here's the part that pushes the story beyond the limits of imagination. The Persians fed the victim every day, not out of mercy, because if the victim starved to death, the punishment would end too quickly. According to the writings of the historian Plutarch, a Persian soldier named Mithridates endured this punishment for 17 days before dying. 17 days. Think about that for a moment. Not 17 hours, not 17 minutes. 17 days of waking up each morning trapped inside those wooden boards, with a body being consumed from within, knowing that today would not be the last day, because they would feed you again. But if Scaphism makes you think human beings could not possibly go any further than that, then you have not yet heard of the Brazen Bull. This is the story of a man who wanted to be rewarded, and the price he paid for it. Perillos, a metalworker from Athens, heard that the tyrant Phalaris of Acragas was looking for a new method of execution, something more impressive, something more unforgettable. Perillos did not turn down the challenge. He spent months constructing a life-size bull made entirely of bronze, hollow on the inside, with a small door on its side, just large enough to fit a person. But that was not the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was the sound system hidden inside the bull. Perillos designed it so that when a victim was locked inside and a fire was lit beneath it, the screams of the person being burned alive would travel through a network of bronze tubes and emerge from the outside, sounding like the bellowing of a bull. So the crowd would not hear a human being dying, only a bull roaring. Perillos proudly presented his invention to Phalaris, explaining every detail. Phalaris looked at it, nodded, and then said, "Step inside and demonstrate what it sounds like." Perillos, perhaps because of pride, perhaps because he never expected what would happen next, climbed inside. The door closed. The fire was lit. And for the first time, the crowd outside heard the voice of the Brazen Bull. Phalaris eventually ordered Perillos removed before he died, not out of mercy, but because he did not want a corpse contaminating his new machine. Perillos was dragged out and thrown from a cliff. The Brazen Bull was used many more times afterward until Phalaris himself was overthrown. And the first punishment the people chose for him was his own Brazen Bull. 3 stories, 3 different civilizations, 3 different ways human beings use their intelligence to create suffering, and all 3 share one thing in common. Not one of the people who designed them believed they were doing anything wrong. Those 3 stories are over, but something is still sitting in your mind. A feeling, an uncomfortable one, something unresolved. What do you call it? Disgust? Horror? Relief that you were not born in that time? Wait, the brain you are using right now to feel disgust is the same brain that belonged to the people applauding outside the Brazen Bull. The same structure, the same mechanisms, the same ability to adapt to whatever the surrounding society calls normal. They were not born cruel. They simply grew up in a world where cruelty had not yet been given a name that condemned it. They loved their children. They laughed in the morning. They shared warm meals with their families. And in the afternoon, they took their children to the public square, as if they were going on a picnic. The terrifying thing is not the Brazen Bull. The terrifying thing is humanity's almost limitless ability to adapt to the suffering of other people. And that ability did not disappear. It is still here, inside us. So the question is not what they got wrong. The question is this: what are we normalizing today that people 500 years from now will look back on and feel exactly what you are feeling right now? That disgust you feel? That is precisely what they should have felt, but did not. And you? Are you feeling it?